The first thing I learned on her planet was that everyone could whisper and shout at the same time. Every corridor I walked through hummed with warnings about her. Some murmured as if summoning a ghost, others delivered with the volume of someone reporting a meteor headed straight for their house. They told me she was unpredictable, volatile, capable of bending matter with her emotions alone. One man claimed she once made a wall beg for forgiveness. Another swore she had vaporized a ceremonial banner because it had looked at her wrong. By the time I reached the outer gardens, I was half convinced she had already sensed me from miles away and was preparing to turn me into decorative mist. The gardens themselves were a strange comfort. Gravity lifted in slow pulses, making the pathways rise and fall like breathing lungs. Floating lantern fruits drifted between the trees, glowing softly as if trying to reassure me I wasn't about to die. I wasn't convinced. Then I saw her. She was nothing like the warnings, no crackling aura, no floating stones, no cosmic lightning sizzling around her feet. She stood near a shimmering gravity pool, concentrating intensely on a tiny bioluminescent creature perched on a rock. The creature looked like a nervous jellyfish trying to become a house pet. She gently pointed at it. "Sit," she said. It wobbled. "Sit," she repeated, ears flicking in frustration. It responded by drifting upside down and emitting a sound like a shy hiccup. I would have backed away quietly, but the gravity surge beneath my feet hiccuped at the same moment, causing me to lurch forward with all the grace of a malfunctioning robot doll. I stumbled into view. She spun around instantly, long ears rising like startled wings. We stared at each other, me frozen in horror. Her frozen in was that confusion, fear, the desire to flee, hard to tell. Her ears twitched wildly as if trying to decode my existence. I wasn't spying, I said. I was just walking, very innocently, extremely innocently. Her eyes narrowed. Humans always say that before something explodes. Nothing will explode, I promised, lifting my hands. Then, just as the universe enjoys mocking me, the floating fruit above us burst with a soft pop, showering us in glowing dust. She blinked at me, then looked up at the fruit's remains. "You did that." "I did not," I protested, glowing like a radioactive cupcake. "Suspicious," she muttered. The creature squeaked, drifted toward me, sniffed the dust, and immediately tried to sit on my shoe. It failed, fell sideways, and floated upward like a balloon that had given up on life. She exhaled sharply, almost a laugh but not quite, something softer. "That creature has terrible coordination," I said. "I know," she replied. "It reminds me of myself." She said it quietly, as though expecting the words to shatter something fragile. Her ears lowered in the slightest, hesitant droop. This was the moment I realized something. She didn't look dangerous. She looked lonely. Not the melodramatic, tragic kind of lonely, but the quiet, everyday sort. The kind that settled into your bones because no one ever tried to stand close enough to understand you. "I'm supposed to avoid you," I admitted, brushing glowing dust from my sleeves. "Apparently you terrify half your planet." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought the gravity pool might shift. "They're terrified of everything. Last month someone screamed because the sun looked a little too orange." "That does sound alarming," I said solemnly. She stared at me for a moment, caught between disbelief and the urge to laugh. "Are humans always like this?" "Like what?" "Ridiculous. Only on special occasions," I said. "Like Tuesdays, or any day that ends with Y." Her ears twitched again, this time in amusement. A small smile pulled at her lips, careful, unsure, as if smiling was something the planet had discouraged her from doing too often. She stepped toward the gravity pool and motioned for me to follow. "If you're already glowing, you might as well come see this." "I'm glowing because the fruit attacked me." "It sensed your fear." "It sensed nothing," I insisted, though I was pretty sure everything on this planet sensed fear. Still, I joined her at the edge of the pool. The surface swirled like liquid glass, reflecting not faces but emotions, brightness for curiosity, flickers for uncertainty. Her reflection pulsed with soft, scattered lights. Mine looked like someone trying very hard not to panic. She noticed. "You don't have to be afraid of me," she said. "I'm not," I told her. "I'm afraid of everything else." Her ears rose slightly, surprised. No one had spoken to her like that, I realized. Not directly, not honestly, not kindly. She looked back at me, and something in her posture loosened, like a tightly wound star finally exhaling. "Then maybe," she said softly, "you're the first person here who sees me." And for the first time since arriving on her world, I didn't feel like something terrible was about to happen. Instead, standing beside a woman everyone feared, covered in glowing dust and accompanied by a creature that couldn't sit, I felt something unexpected. I felt welcome. The next morning, 3 citizens and 1 floating drone followed me around the plaza, whispering as though I were a celebrity whose career was about to end in scandal. Apparently spending 10 minutes near her qualified as recklessly intimate contact. One woman even offered me a pamphlet titled "So You Think You Can Survive Her," which featured a very dramatic illustration of a stick figure being vaporized. I told her that the alien woman had been perfectly civil, even kind. The woman gasped, slapped the pamphlet out of my hands, and sprinted away as if I'd confessed to cuddling a black hole. By the time I found her again, I had accumulated 2 more drones and a street vendor who was absolutely certain I was under some sort of mind control. She stood at the edge of a drifting walkway, arms folded, ears angled sharply upward as she watched the spectacle behind me. "You have fans," she said. "I didn't ask for them," I muttered. "They rarely volunteer," she replied dryly. "Most of the time they run." The walkway beneath us shifted its gravitational mood, rising slightly. She stepped effortlessly, the movement fluid, while I flailed for balance like someone trying to find footing on a trampoline powered by anxiety. Her ears dipped in amusement. "You do that on purpose," I accused. "Do what?" "Look graceful next to a man fighting for his life." "That's just a bonus," she said with a mischievous flick of her ears. "Come on, I want to show you something." She led me away from the plaza, past floating gardens and crystalline archways that pulsed with energy. The drones made a half-hearted attempt to follow, but she glared at them with such intensity that they all spun away like guilty balloons. I made a mental note never to get on her bad side, though given her actual smile, I suspected her bad side was more rumor than reality. We reached a narrow path suspended over a shimmering expanse. The air hummed quietly, the way it does before a storm or a revelation. She slowed, glanced at me, hesitated. Her ears twitched in tiny, uncertain motions. "This is where I come when the world is too loud," she said. "I figured you might like a quiet place, considering the crowd following you." "I'm turning into a public attraction," I said. "I expect the souvenir shops to start selling dolls of me soon." She snorted. "If they do, demand royalties." We walked along the suspended path, and the view opened into a hidden refuge, a small pocket valley cupped between floating rock formations. Gravity behaved politely here, as though relieved to stop showing off for tourists. Bioluminescent flora cast gentle light, and tiny creatures drifted through the air like patient comets. "It's beautiful," I said. "It's quiet," she corrected. "That's the part I need." Her voice softened, and something in her posture shifted. The guarded tension I'd seen before eased, revealing the curve of someone who had spent too long being misunderstood. She brushed her fingers lightly against a cluster of glowing leaves. They responded with a soft chiming sound, almost like they were greeting her. She seemed embarrassed. "They like me. Plants like you." "It's complicated," she said. "They respond to my energy. Usually they react positively. People, on the other hand, tend to panic." "Plants have better judgment," I said. That earned a quiet laugh, small but real. She moved to sit at the edge of a hovering stone ledge, legs dangling over the drop. I joined her, trying not to show how nervous I was about dangling over anything, especially something floating. She noticed immediately. "You're not good with heights." "I'm not good with anything that doesn't stay still." Her ears lifted in amusement. "Our world must be a nightmare for you." "It's growing on me," I said, and I meant it more than I expected. For a while we just sat in the gentle glow of the valley, listening to the soft hum of the hovering stones. She traced patterns on the surface with a fingertip, making the light ripple in slow waves. "They think I'm dangerous," she said quietly. "They always have, even when I was small. I didn't understand my abilities, so things happened. Accidents, breakages, the kind that get retold as stories until people forget what was true." I looked at her ears, expressive, elegant, glowing faintly as she remembered. "You don't seem dangerous to me." "That's because you talk to me," she said. "Most people talk around me or about me or away from me." "That sounds lonely." "It is." The honesty of it settled between us. She wasn't dramatic about it, just matter of fact, as if loneliness were a routine part of her day, like brushing her hair or avoiding overreactive architecture. I nudged her shoulder lightly. "Well, I'm here now, and I'm not planning to run." Her ears curved upward in a soft arc, a motion I now recognized as the beginning of a smile. "Even if I accidentally cause another gravity surge. As long as it doesn't throw me into orbit, I'll adapt." She looked at me with a mixture of incredulity and something warmer, something she wasn't used to feeling in anyone else's presence. "You're strange," she said. "I've been called worse." The light around us pulsed gently, almost approvingly. She leaned back on her hands, tilting her face toward the drifting lights above. For a moment, her features softened so completely that I understood why people feared her, because they had never bothered to see this version of her. Calm, thoughtful, gentle, a woman who only wished for quiet and connection. "You know," she said, "if you keep visiting me like this, people will assume you're my companion. Is that a problem?" Her ears twitched, then glowed faintly, warmth spreading across their tips. "No," she said, "it's unexpected." I smiled. "I like unexpected." "So do I," she whispered, and for the first time she didn't look alone. The council chamber was already rumbling when we arrived, the kind of rumble that suggested someone had pressed too many buttons at once and hoped no one would notice. A shimmering crack pulsed in the center of the ceiling, an obvious sign that an argument had recently gone supernova. I had learned enough about this planet to recognize structural stress caused by bureaucratic frustration. It was practically their national sport. She stood beside me, shoulders squared, ears high but trembling slightly at the tips. The moment we stepped inside, every council member froze mid-yell. One dropped a datapad. Another toppled a glass of glowing liquid that immediately tried to clean itself up, failed, and evaporated in humiliation. A few stared at her with the usual dread. Most stared at me as if I had appeared riding a meteor. "They think I caused the breach," she whispered. "Did you?" I whispered back. "I haven't even been in here today," she hissed. "If I had, it would be symmetrical. That crack is sloppy." I resisted the urge to laugh. The council, meanwhile, performed a silent collective shiver. One brave representative stepped forward, his voice cracking like faulty circuitry. We were told you intended to leave the planet." She stiffened, her ears lowering for the briefest moment. I thought about it. I stepped forward before the tension could thicken enough to develop its own gravitational pull. "She thought about it because you blame her for everything. She sneezes wrong and you issue safety bulletins. A fruit explodes near me and I'm immediately placed on a watch list." Several council members avoided eye contact, which was difficult since the chamber's floating lights kept rotating to spotlight whomever was lying. I continued, louder now, because someone had to. "You've spent years calling her dangerous without ever trying to understand her. She's not a threat, she's just expressive." That got a few confused blinks. "And emotional," I added, "which, by the way, is normal. On my world, we have people who cry at commercials about bread." A few council members exchanged baffled glances. One whispered, "Bread." "She wants peace," I said, "but you only ever expect disaster from her. And when you expect disaster, that's all you see." She looked at me then, eyes soft with something fragile and warm. Her ears lifted slightly, glowing at the edges, not with fear this time but something like gratitude. The lights above us dimmed, reacting to her calm instead of her anxiety. It felt like the room itself was listening. One of the council members cleared his throat. We may have been hasty in our judgments. Hasty, I said. You built an emergency bunker labeled her room. Another member winced. We'll rename it. You'll repurpose it, I corrected. It's very cozy. They murmured amongst themselves. I could see the shift, slow, awkward, reluctant, but real. Her reputation had been a wall built over years, but now it was finally showing cracks and not the explosive kind. The head counselor finally said, "If we reassess your status, will you consider staying? The planet could benefit from someone with your abilities and your perspective." She looked at me unsure. I nodded encouragingly. "I don't want to live in fear," she said quietly, "or make others afraid." "Then help us learn you," the counselor replied. "Not the stories, you." She inhaled shakily, and her ears, those expressive, misunderstood ears, rose with a pride I had never seen in her before. "I will stay. But only if you stop treating me like a malfunctioning star core." A few council members nodded vigorously, eager to live. With the decision made, the crack in the ceiling sealed itself with a sigh of relief, which was unusually symbolic for architectural maintenance. The chamber brightened. The lights warmed. Even the floating platform seemed to settle into a calmer orbit. As we left, she walked beside me quietly, her arm brushing mine. Outside, the air shimmered with evening colors, violet, gold, and the soft teal glow of night lantern spores drifting like lazy fireflies. "You didn't have to defend me like that," she murmured. "Yes, I did." "Why?" "Because I've seen who you really are." She stopped walking, and for a moment the world felt balanced, as if gravity itself were holding its breath. Her ears glowed softly, a warm, tender light. "No one ever stood with me before," she whispered. "They stood away from me, or around me, but never with." "I'm not leaving," I said, "not unless you want me to." She stepped closer, close enough that I could see faint constellations reflected in her eyes. "I don't want you to leave." The gravity around us gave a gentle ripple, almost playful, as if approving the moment. The small creature she tried to train days ago floated by, spinning cheerfully like a disoriented balloon, and settled on my shoulder with surprising confidence. She laughed, an honest, bright sound that made the world feel lighter. "You've changed things," she said. "So have you." We stood together beneath the softly drifting lights, and for the first time since arriving on her strange, beautiful world, I realized how much I had changed. I wasn't frightened anymore, not of gravity surges, not of glowing fruit, and definitely not of the woman beside me. She wasn't dangerous. She was extraordinary, and now, finally, her world was starting to see it too.